Hi, it's Anna. I'm excited to talk about the second biggest learning style today, which is auditory learners. So auditory learners are those individuals who actually need to be able to hear information for them to retain it. So typically speaking, they make up about 30% of the learning population. So if you think about 10 people out of your classroom, you really need to make sure that you're being able to speak clearly, give direction clearly, and verbally connect with 3 out of the 10 people in your class, which, as you know, sometimes can be difficult when we have different learning styles. So when you think about what are some of the things that we really need to make sure that we are doing for those people who absolutely need to hear information verbally. So what are some characteristics of auditory learners? Well, typically speaking, they like to talk to themselves. So have you ever been in a program and you've noticed somebody reading the instructions, but they're doing this? Their lips are moving while they're reading something. That's a typical indication of somebody needing to, again, connect the sound that they're making, even if it's a little whisper, to the way that their brain processes information. They also like music. They like to sing. A lot of times they'll sing when they're doing a chore, when they're doing a task. So for those of us that have ever done hands-on programs and you see somebody doing what they're doing and they're actually kind of humming and singing along, a lot of times that's also a clear indication of an auditory learner. When dealing with auditory learners and when giving instruction to auditory learners, you want to make sure that you're clear, that you're concise, and that you repeat what you have to say, because that is how they process information. So also, have you ever had a conversation with somebody who you're trying to have a conversation or a discussion with, often even in a one-on-one meeting, and they literally will not look you in the eye? Of course, there's different cultural differences that sometimes where looking in the eye can be perceived as disrespectful. But typically speaking, in the American culture, looking in the eye is a form of making sure that you're feeling connected to someone. But I've actually had on numerous occasions where I've had to have a discussion with an auditory learner, with an extreme auditory learner, where the idea of making eye contact or the practice of making eye contact was actually a distraction to them. So what they would do is they literally would tilt their head and be doodling as you were talking. So they literally, if you think about what happens when I'm tilting my head and doodling, they literally are giving you their ear versus giving you their eyes. So that's also a really clear indication of an auditory learner. So for us as presenters, what are some of the things that we can do to make sure that those auditory learners are connected to, that they're getting the information that we're giving them? And also, what are some of the things that we can do to get ready for a presentation for a room full of auditory learners? So here's hack number 1. Children's books are an incredible way to get ready for a presentation for auditory learners. This one is a particular favorite of mine for auditory learners, and it's a really, really basic one. So the name of this one is The Duckling Gets a Cookie, because oftentimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And the way that you use vocal inflection with auditory learners can actually change completely the meaning of a sentence or what they actually retain from the information. So this particular book is an absolute favorite of mine. So I'm just going to give you a quick sample. This isn't story time. However, I'm hoping that this will be helpful for you. It doesn't have to be these books. Pick a children's books that has a general theme and really try to read out to yourself. So this is a really easy book, right? It's not nighttime reading. It's something that's super easy. So for example, the little duckling is saying, "May I have a cookie, please?" So look what happens when you change the vocal inflection for each word that you're doing. May I have a cookie, please? Okay, so that's meaning number 1. May I have a cookie, please? That could be meaning number 2. May I have a cookie, please? May I have a cookie, please? May I have a cookie, please? So you see, it's one sentence, and depending on where you put the vocal inflection, it actually completely changes the meaning of the sentence. So when you're talking about auditory learners and when you're talking about practicing vocal inflection, something as easy as this book can be really, really helpful for you as the presenter. Read it out loud to yourself. If you've got dogs, cats, kids, I'm sure they would appreciate a nighttime story, but this particular one has been super helpful to me. The other thing that is super helpful, and it's a little bit of an auditory hack, because, some of us, many of us, gosh, most of us say ums, but, We all have our non-words that we like to say. And for those auditory learners, that tends to drive them the craziest that it would out of any of the other learning styles. And so oftentimes during an evaluation, the ones that typically tend to like ding you for the fact that you said too many times, those are typically the auditory learners. So here's a really good hack for getting rid of those when you're talking to auditory learners. So if you have a straw or a pen or, you know, a coffee stir, a pencil, something that's small and that is easily fitting between the back of your teeth and the front of your tip of your tongue. So something that can easily fit between the back of your teeth and the tip of your tongue. So this is totally PG, but watch what happens. So you want to place that object and literally, so you want to talk like this for about 60 seconds. That literally was what, maybe 2 seconds? And what actually happens is your tongue gets used to exerting extra pressure. So when you're going into a presentation where vocal inflection and what you have to say is going to be super important, which let's face it is a lot of the time, practice strengthening your tongue with such an equipment. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to place this is a straw, you can see through it. You want to use a pencil, a coffee stir, nothing too big, and again, PG, that you're able to actually put in your mouth. And for about 60 seconds is like the ideal max. Your tongue is going to be on steroids if you do this for about 60 seconds. So look what happens. I'm going to put it in, and let's start doing it. So I'm going to take a look these fucking blocks, and this is really good. Okay, what happens? So I was happening to, I was trying to read a book. You don't have to read a book. You can sing, you can talk to yourself, you can just, make complete nonsense sounds. But look, you can even hear it in the way that I'm pronouncing things now. Your tongue has just gotten used to exerting extra energy, so everything that you say is going to be that much clearer and that much more powerful. So again, this one you can do anywhere. You can do it right before you're going on stage, right before you're going in front of a group of people, and it's one quick thing that you can do within 60 seconds anywhere in the world that will make your life a bit easier. So the 2 takeaways that we have for today is sometimes it's good to talk with your mouth full, and kids' books are our best friends when preparing for a presentation where vocal inflection is important. More to come on Auditory Learners. If you like what you're learning so far, click subscribe below, and I'll see you soon.